We're going to bring in now David Edmonds, the artistic director of the Worcester Arches Festivals, to continue on the festivals theme, and Martha Henley, who absolutely will have something to say about what opportunities have been created for artists and creatives as a direct beneficiary of that. So over to you, David. How's Worcester's cultural programme through CDF created new opportunities for businesses, freelancers, and new entrants?
Hi, Jason. Thank you. Yeah, it's we've kind of really looked at a number of things, and one of the key things when we came into the programme was to really kind of raise the level of ambition in Worcester and what was possible to kind of deliver, both for our audiences, but also sort of the infrastructure in place to deliver events on that scale, but ensuring that our audiences were at the heart of that work, and actually that we benefited the wider cultural sector within the city. We had the view that we wanted to present new things that weren't already being done by somebody else as a new team coming in within sort of Seven Arts and the wider CDF project. We didn't want to be kind of sort of treading on anyone else's toes. We wanted to kind of fill the gaps, find out where the spaces were, find out where the new opportunities were. And I think the two kind of things for me that have really stood out is the level of ambition we've kind of had with it, but also the permission by the fund to take risk. And what do we really mean by risk? And for me, you know, creatively, we've been able to kind of commission new work. We've been able to kind of program how we've wanted to. We've been able to really kind of take the city on a journey through that and kind of say, this 3-year experience is an experiment. We can kind of learn as we go. We can kind of get things wrong, and kind of getting things wrong is actually a really useful tool, because we're then kind of breaking that ceiling. Go, we always do this and it works, but actually, what if we tried something different? So for me, as an artistic director coming in, having that freedom to sort of to kind of play and kind of see where our audience wanted to go. Our first festival, First Light Night in 2020. Was a huge success pre-COVID, and we knew at that point kind of the audience were hungry for it. We've had a kind of sort of inward tag all the way through that the work that we bring to Worcester needs to be of that sort of level that if it's good enough for London and Manchester, it's good enough for Worcester. And I think we feel, you know, there's a lot with the CDF locations that we're not your big kind of metropolitan cities that have had a lot of cultural investment, and there's a lot of resource there, there's a lot of experience. This was terms of kind of like developing something new. So for us, the quality of the work, and whether that's locally developed commission work or whether that's us bringing in international artists for the first time to the city, it has to be that it could stand up in any of those big cultural centres within the UK. But also that our audiences shouldn't have to travel to a Cardiff or a Birmingham to experience that. They should be able to get that in their own city, and it not be a sort of a secondary notion. One of the big successes for us, and kind of, you know, to answer your question, Jason, around how it's impacted local freelancers and kind of developed and what's there. And Martha's a great example of that. I'm going to let her talk more about her journey shortly. But we really wanted to embed that kind of development of practitioners, whether they be apprenticeships or interns, over a longer period of time. I think there's a lot of schemes within arts and culture that are short term, and then where do they really go? So you might get a 6-month placement somewhere, and where does then that lead to? And then do you do another one and another one? And how does that progress that sense of actually being like, well, actually, this is now my career and where this can move on? So both Martha and Maria Magdalena, who was on our mentors, and so one of our apprenticeships through the programme, they've been with us right the way through, and that sort of development in terms of time and investment in them, giving them things that are challenging, that they've not just been kind of those roles where they sort of sit in a team and go, yeah, what do they do? We've really kind of sort of took the time to kind of expose them and give them ownership of key parts of the programme and key parts of the project. And now we're at a stage where they are key members of the team, and both have kind of gone through that apprenticeship and programme, an intern programme, and are now full-time members of the team who we'd rather employ than kind of go elsewhere and bring in new people that are maybe more experienced on paper, but actually both Martha and Maria Magdalena have really grown with us. Another example is that as well as bringing in lots of international work and high quality work, we've also created employment opportunities for local performers. We do a lot of walkabout work around the main installation. So say something like our Light Night Festival, there's a lot of additionality around that. And we found that employing local graduates, drama-based graduates, has been a real benefit, because we're directly giving them work, which in kind of conversation with them is what they want, is what they need, is those opportunities kind of put their training into kind of place, but actually be paid for doing it in actual engagement. So we've kind of continued to kind of marry that recent drama graduates through Worcester University or elsewhere locally, but alongside really kind of high profile companies. And then the third thing again has been around the production line. So we've worked with a number of production companies and our event management teams, but we've tried to really make that supply chain local and build that so it then becomes a resource and a process for the city. So working with existing providers who are there around things like health and safety or crowd management, but by kind of marrying them with some of our teams that we brought in who have maybe worked on things like the Commonwealth Games or the Queen's Baton Relay, we're just kind of pushing that level of kind of quality and delivery and best practice that we'd really want you to do. And that exposure where those teams say are very local, but actually we're bringing in additional skills, additional learning, we're sharing that experience and we're growing it within. So our supply chain now around, say, production and tech is very local, and they're now gaining traction in terms of other projects and other work off the back of the events they've been doing with us through Light Night or our other festivals. So that, again, we're building that infrastructure that over time will benefit events and projects way beyond what we're kind of doing through the CDF.
That's really fantastic, and that's we're going to pick up on those themes in a moment with Wakefield as well, about how you move from supporting a community into a creative cluster. Martha, let's pretend for a moment Dave's not here, and Dave, close your ears. Does that tally with your experience as an apprentice? How did you find it?
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, it's been an incredible experience, and I don't mean to sound dramatic when I say this, but it genuinely did change my life when I got my apprenticeship. You know, I wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't have got that. And, you know, despite starting 2 weeks before the first lockdown, my experience wasn't dampened. We did loads of training, including the NCRQ health and safety course, which has been invaluable. And I've used that massively since. And, you know, working with such an amazing team and having that support, and also working with the different members, and they all bring different, you know, experiences to the table, and that's really great to learn off as well. And I'd done an events management and hospitality course before this, and you know, you get all the knowledge, but where's the experience? How do you actually put that into practice? And you know, especially in the events world, a textbook can't always teach you what might happen on the ground. So that experience is definitely vital. And you know, it's not just developed me in my career either. Personally, that self-belief and that confidence has come on leaps and bounds. And there's also an incredible amount of pride that comes from doing these festivals in a city I've always grown up in as well. And it's amazing the variety I've got from the Arches festivals as well, you know, from our light nights to our sort of community things where we encourage participation where participation wouldn't normally happen, and atmosphere, which is coming up in the spring. And it certainly has helped me along my creative career. You know, I've now been promoted to assistant producer, which is incredible, and it gives you a better idea of where you want to go and the possibilities that lie ahead. And it's helped me build networks, relationships within Worcester, but in the events industry. It's wonderful to help build pride in Worcester and also help build the cultural infrastructure going forward too. So it's been an amazing experience, and it certainly has helped me on my creative career.
That's really brilliant. I can feel myself welling up here. It's really lovely to hear it.
That's what we want to bring.
I mean, that's really great. Well, I mean, please again do join us for the we'll hopefully have about 5 minutes for the Q&A at the end. So please come back for that. Thanks ever so much, Martha and David, and come back in a moment. We're going to hear now from Wakefield.